Hey, everybody. I'm here with Alaya Ketani, and she's a seasoned hypnotherapist and change agent with over 41 years of experience in 7 forms of hypnotherapy, neuroscience, and NLP. She blends deep intuition with a lifetime of study to guide clients towards healing and transformation. She's the founder and executive director of Keeping All Women Safe, advocating for the safety and equality of women and girls working towards systems reform. Alaya hosts the podcast We Are Our Superheroes and leads the Superhero Women Hypnotherapy and Mentoring Program. Her upcoming Live with Alaya gatherings invite women into powerful conversations on growth, truth, and self-actualization. Welcome, Alaya. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming.
Thank you, Joanna. Appreciate being here.
Yay. So I am so excited to talk to you. Tell me, what got you into this work? What,
Well, it's an interesting thing. When I was just a little girl, I used to pull the pain out of people. My mother, who was from Boston and very strict, used to think I was being very impolite by staring at people. But actually, I was merging with people and pulling their pain. And I realized this some years later when people started actually following me in the grocery stores and in the airports and even in restaurants. A waitress one time started crying at my table and said, I feel like you can see into my soul. And I said, well, actually, I can, but I just want to order. I was traveling at the time. So it was really, it was a gift and a calling that I tried to run from. In my 20s, I had multiple careers. I was a stockbroker, a real estate broker. I worked for the third largest ad agency in the world. I was a national field operations director for a Hollywood-based market research firm, and then I had a secret clearance in government defense work, all in my 20s. And then I had it, bought a van, and took off to travel the back roads for 2 years without an itinerary. So when I came to Oregon on that van trip, my first job was a social worker, and my calling found me again. And I've not only stayed with it, working with people, helping people with their lives, all aspects, but I also recommitted to this life of service about 25, 30 years ago when I was in very challenging circumstances and kind of bargaining with life. You help me come through this, and I'll recommit to this life of service. So yeah, it was that saying, some people are called, some people just call themselves. Um, well, I was definitely called since I was a little girl. I was a deep little girl, um, and so here I am, many many years later. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. And so, just I have a background in doing energy healing, and I know it can get tricky when you're pulling energy out of people. Did you learn how to um, navigate that
I
with your
stopped doing it.
right?
I stopped doing it. I didn't know what I was doing as a little girl, and as I became an adult, I was still merging with people. I would be a passenger in cars, and friends at the time would say, wow, you just like look at everybody in the face. I was merging with everybody. I had no idea what a boundary was, but I also had a lot of challenges. I was not well. I was not looking where I was walking. It can be very troublesome when you don't have sovereignty in a body, living this human experience. And I remember many years ago even saying to a spiritual teacher, because he used to say to me, you need to stay in your body. And I used to say, I don't understand why, because everybody I know is trying to know God, is trying to ascend to God, and I'm naturally there. And you're telling me I have to be in my body. But now I understand he was right. I definitely did need to become embodied and be grounded and have boundaries. And so I learned all that many years ago, maybe 25 years ago. Yeah.
What a funny thing, isn't it? That y- people take courses and workshops for years and years to learn how to do all of these things um, to do what you just did naturally, and then we
Yeah.
have to learn how to ground and be embodied in a body and feel that. And is this something that you teach people?
Boundaries?
Yeah.
Certainly. Most certainly. Yeah, I teach people many different things in order to navigate life skillfully and become our true essential self. In other words, recognize that we have an all-powerful blueprint, and it's just this world and parental programming, societal programming, advertising that has taught us to minimize the truth of who and what we really are.
Right. What is the
Yeah.
truth of who and what we really are?
Such a great question. I see the truth and I experience the truth as being a divine spirit put into a body for this human experiment while still remembering and actualizing the fact that we are actually a divine soul with the powers and the conscience and the consciousness of that divine soul while being subjected to human nature and seeing how that journey brings us through those experiences of continuing to remember, continuing to recenter in our home base, which is our place of refuge for the truth of who and what we are, and continue to refine that life, those skills, those practices, right? So
Definitely.
that hopefully, as life goes on, we can live more and more through that pure essential love and wisdom and understanding as our guide and be a light post for others.
Yeah. How do you as a being create the balance between being a human and being a divine?
Right. So first of all, I don't identify as human
Right.
at all. Yeah, I identify that I'm living a human experience, but I keep my self-identification as this soul spirit poured into a body. Um, I'm subject to human nature just like everyone else. But I feel that because since I was a little girl, I was given what I call feeling visions. I was given the sight, the sound, the feeling, and the message all in one, very, very young, and um, had a very deep conscience and need, almost a desperation to find out what is this life about and why was I created, that a lot of options in this life haven't really been options for me. So, um, in my 20s, I lived in LA. I had a very popular look. I attracted numbers of people. I attracted many opportunities. And there were times that I was upset at myself for not going for some of these opportunities. Um, and yet it didn't feel like an option for me. In fact, one time, um, I think I was like 23. My mother had died while I was in college. I was trying to take care of my little brother, keep him away from my father as much as possible, and trying to make a living the honest way in advertising in LA, which is very hard for a woman. Every career I tried, I kept moving around because they were trying to pimp me in
Right.
every career, right? So this is in the 70s.
Mhm.
Um, and I was living on powdered food substitute. This was before it was popular. It was for impoverished nations, right? I had a fancy sports car that had broken down that I couldn't afford to fix. And I'd been at the beach, and there was a couple who had propositioned me and given me their card. And I was tired of being poor. And I actually called that number, and the guy it was his work number, and he was out to lunch. And I felt like, phew, right? Because at that time I'd gotten every offer of being kept, of being paid for sex, of being, married, of living, everything.
Mhm.
And in one respect, that would have made my life easier, but I couldn't take up any of these options. And at that particular afternoon, I remember standing in my living room. This apartment had roaches, there'd been a murder. Um, it was right on Interstate 5 in the freeway, right? And I asked myself, what is your problem? Why can't you take any of these offers and get out of this mess? And what I heard was, because you know it will change your heart and you can never go back.
Mhm.
And so I'm not saying that I'm perfect and that I haven't done things wrong and I haven't made errors. And um, because I'm living this human experience like everyone. However, I've had a very strong voice of guidance as to what this life is about for me.
Mhm.
And um, I've chosen to follow it.
I love it. So what at this point in time, what is your guidance that you are here to do with all of your background, and who are the core people that you want to help?
So at this point, because I've lived almost 72 years, it's an interesting number. When I turned 70 years of age, it wasn't, I mean, I had parties in 2 locations in Oregon, and I had a great time. It was something about turning 71, and I received a really strong, almost urgent direction that it's time to really put together everything that I have not only learned but experienced in what is a very concentrated life. I've lived a very unconventional and also a very eventful life. Come back from great suffering and almost death for a prolonged period of time, 5 different times in crisis and catastrophe, when I was told there was no hope. And I learned a lot that cannot be taught in a training. So that combination of a lifetime of teaching and training since I was a little girl, the unique insights from my own life journey merged together, and all my experience with clients has created this focus for me that I call becoming our own superhero. And it started out with my podcast, which is launching next week. And then I said, wait, this is a program for women. So then I created the website for that, which is published. It's alchemizedchange.com/our superhero. I am going to start next month a live with Alaya's where women can pre-register and we can all commune together. They can come with their questions about me or each other. It's a judgment-free space to really explore and talk, to come together. And then I'm doing this keynote speech for the first time. It's my gateway into public speaking, which I've been saying I want to do, and which I actually had a vision of 25 years ago when I was in big trouble before I came to the Rogue Valley. So this is my focus. My focus is for all those who choose to listen, who choose to benefit from the skills, the practices, the knowledge, and the wisdom that I've gained these 72 years through a life that you probably wouldn't believe seeing me sitting here right now. I don't. Um, and offer it. And for those who choose to participate, it will be very valuable.
Oh, so
Yeah.
so what would you say to women who didn't take the path that you took? Maybe they would have taken that other um, road. So you had two roads that you could have taken, and you took the road that was more spiritual, or
In
um,
service,
in
perhaps.
service. Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I had my worldly days. I mean, I went to clubs and after clubs and, um, but I would say that everyone has their path
Right.
and we all have choices. And it's not for me to um, make an opinion or an assumption or a judgment of anyone's path. We all have, I believe we have multiple lives. Like the Buddhists say, pearls on a necklace, many, many only, hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. So um, I'm
That
not
sums
here
up this
to,
lifetime.
yeah, a lot of lifetimes, you
Mhm.
know. And in fact, one time at a Buddhist training, there was a visiting Rinpoche, and we could ask questions. And I asked him, I said, I have had so much happen in this life. I mean, I've had a lot of hard times. I've engaged life very freely. I've never let fear stop me. And so a lot has happened, but sometimes I feel badly. I'm concerned of what were my past lives like that in this life I've suffered so much. And he said, "Oh, but because you are so concerned in your heart about your past lives, this is a wonderful life. Your heart is so good that it would concern you, right?" So it's all perception. It's all perception and it's all projection. And I feel the more that we practice in this life, recognizing that our perception is based on what we're projecting. I can assume you're thinking something or you have intentions of something, but I don't know what your intentions are. I'm projecting what's in my mind onto you. And that's true about all of life, and it's true about everyone. Yeah.
I love that topic, especially now, with all the things that are happening in our country. People are protesting this and fighting against that, but we're creating our reality. We're lending energy to and our superpowers to the things that we either want or don't want. And so I would love for you to talk about, when we see something in the world that maybe we don't want, um, what can we do? What can we do to either, to create the world that we want with our intention, with our, how do we lend our energy to the life that we want to live and the world that we want to live and the world that we want to create?
Right. So that's a multi-layered
Right.
uh,
No
question,
pressure.
topic, answer, right? Because I have felt a personal responsibility to help co-create a world with more just, fair, and equitable systems, um, and love for one another. Because most certainly right now, women are still used as weapon of war around the globe, and every system in the US is created by white men for white men. And there is no equality in any system, whether we're talking about medical, judicial, legislative, political, um, educational. There is no equality. So I can get pretty fierce about the fact that we do need to get involved. However, there are different ways for different souls. What's right for you, what's right for me may not be right for someone else. And it's a matter of timing too. What's right for me when I was 20, 30, 40 can be different than what's right for me now. So each individual needs to discern how they feel moved to help co-create a world that feels right for them and a life that feels. And there's many different ways to do it. That's why in my program, it's alignment in mind, body, soul, spirit on every level, because we can address things physically, make our sign, go stand on the sidewalk. I don't see anything wrong with that. Just be careful, take care of yourself. Um, but we can also address things as the timeless eternal spirits that we are and work multidimensionally and energetically. We can also work with energy systems of people who know Reiki or other energy systems. I also work on that level. So I feel that at different times in different people's lives, what's right for them takes different forms. And it's all okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally intentionally expose myself to people and opinions and perspectives that are not loving or kind or in alignment with how I feel things should be, so that I can work on staying centered and non-reactive. And then I observe how much charge and how heated or how much agitation I'm experiencing along the way as my own intentional, growth. But there does come a point when I can tell it's too much and like stuff like it's really aggravating and upsetting and you know but yeah, I'm not interested in only creating a bubble of people who see everything exactly like me or just like me, or we're all unique and we're all complex and we're all in some ways essentially the same too.
Right.
It's all of it.
Yeah. And what's so in the practice that I am learning and that I'm experiencing right now, they're saying that there's only one of us here, that our outside world is reflective of our inside world. But how do you because you've been in this practice for a really long time, how do you reconcile the outside world being a reflection of our inner world?
Well, human nature exists,
Right.
and in a way it exists in certain enjoyable ways, right? I mean, my friends know I love like cranberry margaritas, right? Cranberry, I make them myself. Cranberry skinny margarita. I don't like the sweet and sour, but just as an example, there's parts of the world that can be enjoyable, and there's parts of the world that to me make planet Earth an insane asylum.
Right.
And that's primarily because most, I would say 99% of the people on planet Earth do not understand right relationship with their mind, with their thoughts. So they're running on a default program that they saw demonstrated, that they experienced even in womb. It's a program not only of limitation, but it's a program where they believe their thoughts, they dive into their thoughts, they're totally absorbed by the movie of their thoughts, and they're using their imagination to terrorize themselves rather than create what they need and what they feel the world needs. So by being the victim of our mind and our thoughts, we are actually insane. Right. And we've created an insane and out of control planet, right? So I have that capacity too.
Right.
I have a body that is given human nature. I have a mind. You can cut a brain out of a cadaver, but you can't hold on to a mind, right? It's energetic. Everything's energetic, but it has an operating system. And so we have to intentionally reprogram ourselves with the wisdom and understanding and truth, again, of who and what we are. If we're running on default, we're in trouble. Some people get by with it. I couldn't. Right. Some people get by. That doesn't mean they have depth of peace. That doesn't mean they stay healthy. Maybe they get a lot of money and they can buy themselves out of a lot of trouble, but ultimately they can't buy themselves out of everything. Right. And they can't buy themselves out of peace when they're taking their last breaths, right? So this world is a reflection of everything that we could be or could create, and we have a choice. That's how I see it right in this moment.
Yeah. And your program, and it's interesting, right? Program, because we're being programmed all of the time. And so now you have this program that helps reprogram the mind. What's the bridge? Like, what's the bridge between thinking that your thoughts are the reality and that's all there is, to you're creating this new reality that you want to create? Like, what's that bridge? And you have so much background with all of the hypnotherapy and
Right.
all of these
So
things.
this program is very grounded.
Mm-hmm.
It it trains women, explains, demonstrates, and then creates new neural pathways with many of the elements, characteristics, and components that I've had to use in my life to come through those crisis situations when I was told there was no hope, right? When I was told I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life at 35 and I'm nowhere. I mean, that was just not true. Um, but so they're on every level. I mean, I have right here in working, in designing the program. I mean, I have a sheet of paper that has a multitude of different components that help us to not just navigate through crisis or catastrophe, but everyday life. I call it learning to swim before you're drowning. So there are very important skills and practices for mental elevation and mental mastery. There's very important practices for taking bold action, using discernment and decision making, understanding, recognizing, and following our intuition, examining our goals, our beliefs, our expectations, right? Examining those minimizing programs we've gotten versus the possibility that actually there are unlimited possibilities. The role of grace, the role of vision, the role of being able to travel timelines, the role of neuroscience that teaches us who and what we are, and quantum physics, right? The how do we gain and sustain perseverance and determination? How do we know right timing? All of these things, how to be vulnerable and when, how to really establish a sense of assurance and presence based again on the truth of who we are, not some conjured up human, arrogant, aggressive confidence that hogs up all the energy in a conversation or thinks you have to be A type and going all the time. No, there's a time and a place for everything, but how do we gain that assurance, that knowing, that confidence based on true wisdom and understanding? That's what this program's about. So it's very, very practical. It's more practical than all the limiting programs ever, but it's very expansive as well. And that's why it's groundbreaking, because it's taking us not just into daily life skills, it's taking us truly into that recognition and soul transformation of who are we really, and how does that now reshape our expectations, our systems, our rules for ourselves? And how does that bring us that true confidence that doesn't have anything to prove? It's just present.
Right. And they've done studies just recently about the highest vibration, and people thought that it was love, right? But what they actually found was that it is on authenticity. And I think there's so many people today that are trying to fit into a mold and trying to fit in general into society. But when you find your true essence, like you're talking about, and you're clearing away all of that stuff that's not you, you can be your authentic self in feeling that safety to be yourself and to know that that's okay. And I think um, we go through all those trials and tribulations and crazy stuff early on in life so that we can have compassion um, for other people who go through the same thing. I often wondered, like, wow, like I've had a lot of lifetimes this lifetime and been through all this turmoil. Why? And I think it's to have compassion for other people going through the same thing. And you've built a map, you've created a map to get people from that space to a better place, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, in a way, of course, it's not like a warranty or a guarantee. We're going to start with you here and you're going to end up here, right? Because I'm still on my path as well with all these things, and so is everyone else.
Right.
However, just imagine if we had been given the knowledge of these things and shown the demonstration when we were just in the womb, and then our mothers as a baby carried us around life and explained to us these truths, this wisdom. We wouldn't necessarily be living it as we were a child and even a young adult, but we would have the knowledge to be able to make sense of what we're now experiencing and the cause and effect of our choices in a whole different way. And we would be our own superheroes. We would know that we had unlimited potential and possibilities. We'd be much healthier. We'd be more peaceful. We'd be much greater contributors to others. We'd have much deeper compassion, much less judgment, right? But we'd still have our trial and error because, look at our lives. Maybe older, wiser people told us, I remember my father telling me in high school that a certain friend of mine, he said, she's not really your friend. You're going to find that out. Yeah. Well, I actually knew he was right, but I didn't care because I still wanted to hang around with her. But the day came when it was proven to me. I had a stalker, and I called her, and the stalker had just like left his sunglasses on the counter of my apartment. He'd gotten in. Yeah, it was very scary. And I called her scared, and she said, well, I'm having a dinner party. Can't come over. Yeah. And I remembered what my father had said. She's not really your friend. And I was like, well, that's for sure. Right? Call me in a few days if you're still scared.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah. So receiving the knowledge, having the skills and the practices is the start.
Right.
And then going through life with that knowledge and applying what you've heard according to your own timing, your own soul's journey is what it's about. But then we add the hypnotherapy so that those neural pathways are created. You're opening those doors. Modern science tells us that 95% of the source of all of our choices and behaviors are subconscious. So people are going around thinking well, I have freedom of choice. I want the strawberry ice cream, not the chocolate. That's not a freedom of choice. That's a programmed subconscious neural pathway. So that's a very important part. It's one of the reasons why I've chosen to specialize in hypnotherapy and trained in 7 different forms, because it is such a potent form of recalibration and realignment. And that's what it is. It's really not becoming a new person. It's about alignment with who we already are, essentially. Yeah. Not the covered up programs and opinions. And it's not necessarily an easy path either. There are women who love me, and there are women who are very triggered by me. There are women who have told me I'm too strong and too much of a mirror, and they can't be around me, right? It's not that I'm imposing my opinion on them. They actually come to me for my opinion, but then it's too hard when one is choosing or being committed to misunderstanding
Right.
to be in the face of understanding.
Right.
Right. So there's a part of us that's seeking it out, but not ready to accept it yet. So that's why it's a journey. This program is the start of a journey. And hopefully will take people a long way. Some of these skills saved my life. I would not be alive if I hadn't been practicing these skills.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And I love the fact that you worked in, did you say you worked in advertising?
I did in my 20s. Yeah.
Right. Well, advertising is what makes us think the wrong things anyway, because it programs us in a specific way to not love ourselves and
That's
not
right.
we're good enough and not everything. And so now
That's
you're,
right. And it's more and more advanced now
oh yeah.
with technology. So, they're collecting all of the information of everything that we queue up on our phone, everything we look at. People think there's a lot more that's being collected. I don't know for sure. But back when I was in advertising and market research, they were collecting data, and then there was intentional placement of products in grocery stores and other stores.
Right.
I used to make jokes at the meetings. They should put the chocolate right beside the menstrual pads and stuff,
Oh,
right? Make
right.
it easy on women, right? Just grab one and grab the other. Um, but everything is very intentional and far more sophisticated, far more deceitful now
Yeah.
than then.
Yeah. And that's why we need different programming to program us into who we really are, our divine essence, because
Yeah,
we're constantly being bombarded with this other stuff. We need to reprogram ourselves
that's
so that
right.
we can
Yeah,
unravel all that.
yeah. And at a rapid pace, an increasing pace, it's happening. And it's an interesting thing because the programming causes an addiction.
Right.
And so people become addicted to those rapid pulses in the brain. And, I believe that the writings of many, 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 I don't know how many hundreds, thousands of years ago, when we had a different culture and we were aware of our um, superhero abilities. And we use those for healing, right? Sound healing, color healing, healing tones. My first vision when I was a little girl was of a place. I can still see it now. It was very clear where we didn't speak with our mouths, we spoke through our eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have any external light. Our hearts lit up the whole place. And then suddenly there I was in this violent house
Oh,
going, what the heck?
right.
Like, who plunked me here? A stranger to my family, a stranger in my house, traumatized, shocked. That's why I heard within myself, I need to find out why I was created. And then I wondered, I'm just little. How do I know the word created? But I was given that directive. I was also told, because I said to myself, if this is what life's about, I'm not sticking around.
Right.
And I got the directive, you are not allowed to end your own life. It will not succeed and you'll end up worse off.
Right.
So many times in my life, when I was in very difficult circumstances, even close to ending my life, I knew it's not going to work.
Right.
Don't do it. Right? Don't do it. Find a way to keep increasing in understanding and finding meaning in this life because that's your choice. That's it. So, all that being said, there were times that I see when women were empowered. There were times when we used our spiritual abilities for healing, for running a more peaceful, harmonious planet or star wherever we were. Now we're at a point where technology has come in and is advancing and has become the vehicle, the tool, or the God of this world, where people are using technology as their power instead of their power as a divine spirit, right? And it's essentially becoming a face-off.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're seeing examples of it now. The most brazen, bullish, patriarchal ego showing us a demonstration of that, which is the domination system, versus a more partnership, collaborative, feminine principle that is based in, again, the essential truths of who we are. It's an interesting thing, though, because as our programming is limited and as this has been a man's world, women, in seeking to become sovereign and independent and successful, have really adapted a lot of the male ways.
Right.
And now are aligning with that, A to B, dominate, versus truly in partnership in a more feminine, collaborative form. And I see it even with women in business. They're trying to make their own way. We all are, without really knowing how to do business. But there's a lack of systems, and so there's a lot of times not a lot of follow through. I just observe a need for more systems of women who are creating their own way of business.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the person to teach that course, but I don't claim to be a great business person. There are some principles that I've learned about follow through and communication, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But our programs are so strong that adapting to the male way that we've been shown, even as women, has been dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking to see, when is this face-off going to transform into the highest potential?
Mm-hmm.
Which
And
is,
that's what your program is about. Like, the more we become ourselves, the more we unravel who we aren't to become who we are.
yes,
I think it's just a natural progression.
hopefully, if we don't destroy everything first,
We won't.
right?
We won't, because that's our reality, right? We've decided, and you decided to create this program so that people can be what they need to be, which is themselves the whole time. So I'm excited. I'm excited about your new program. I think it's going to be awesome.
Thank you.
And really, like, how many people are you going to wake up and wake up to their own being and their own power? And every single person that you're waking up is going to be out there with more people and more people and more people. So the ripples of transformation is immense, immense. So thank
And
you so
hopefully
much for creating that.
being mothers and grandmothers and raising new babies and creating the hope that is truly transformative.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So where can people find more information about your upcoming programs and your podcast?
Sure. So the program can be found on www.alchemizechange. Alchemize, I know you'll have the link, ALCHEMIZE. Alchemize is an ancient process of turning base metal into gold. So alchemizechange.com/our superhero. My main website is alchemizechange.com. So you just add the our superhero/our superhero. And my podcast, which is launching next week, I have about 10. I keep recording episodes, but can't catch up with actually launching it. That's happening next week. It'll be on my YouTube channel, which is my name, Alaya Ketani. You'll have that link as well. And then it'll be sent out to Spotify and all the other ones, which I don't know what they are. I had to learn all this stuff, right? Um, so that'll be coming. And then the Live with Alaya, I have a date set. I just had a big flyer done this morning announcing all three of these projects. The first date is coming in July for women. So there'll be flyers out, as well as I'll be posting all around Facebook, and people can subscribe um, to my email in order to be notified each month when the Live with Alaya is going to be and who's going to be on the podcast. And that would just be alchemizechange@gmail.com. And then for the nonprofit, for women who feel that you want to learn more or you need our assistance, it's keepingallwomensafe.com. And if you feel that you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, if you have a story to tell of experiences in your life when you needed to expand beyond personally held and societal imposed programs, limits, email me also, alchemizechange@gmail.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on. I just appreciate you so much, and your story is so inspirational, and I know that you're going to touch so many people.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I'm so happy to meet you finally. I knew you were a very talented woman, and I wanted to meet you. And now we've met here, and hopefully we'll meet in person one day soon as well.
Yay. Yeah, I got to
Yay.
see your keynote this weekend. That's it.
Oh yeah, this a week from tomorrow. Yes, I'll be the keynote speaker at the Center for Spiritual Living in Grants Pass fun fair on that Saturday at 4 o'clock. So actually, this will be the first time I'm giving some details about the experience I had before I came to the Rogue Valley. I actually came to the Rogue Valley with an escape plan that I had to form myself from a very dangerous situation prior, and I have never spoken about it. So there'll be some details, that story for the first time in my speech. So come on out.
Oh, so good. So good. So many people are going to hear your story and transform their lives. And I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Yay. Thank you so much for your support and
Yay.
for your life and your work. Appreciate
Aw,
it.
thank you. And if you loved this podcast, please subscribe and comment below if you want to hear more with Leia, and we'll have her on again and hear more about her amazing stories and transformations, because she lived an amazing life and keeps living it. Thank you so much, and we will see you soon.
Thank